Welcome to the Commander's Journey, a journey for new Commander players ready to uncover their hidden magic potential.
Welcome back. I'm your host, Joel.
And I'm Alex.
And today we have another deck tech for you. So this is one of the new commanders from the new Zendikar set, Zendikar Rising, and it's a fun one.
Yeah, you know, I definitely, I was scouring, trying to decide what we can do, and honestly, there's a lot of fun commanders in this set. I definitely, we got some more tribal commander coming your way, and this is a perfect tribal deck of one I haven't built before, and so I was excited to do it.
Yeah, these are colors I'm really comfortable with, in Orzhov colors, Tesa being my first. So I really like this. But yeah, and there's so many good commanders in this set, it's hard to choose. But this is the this was the buy a box promo card, and I think we've done that the last few sets. I think we're starting a thing by doing the buy a box promo.
Yeah. You know, I did not get this as my buy a box promo. I didn't get a buy a box promo.
Really?
I assume it had to do with the shipping. We talked about this. I didn't
yeah.
get it. And I got Orah in a pack. I didn't even know it came in a pack. I got it in a pack.
There you go. Well,
so I have an Orah.
You have an Orah.
I just didn't get his a foil promo.
But you don't have the full art promo.
No,
like I got.
None of that fanciness. My sword didn't seem to have it.
That's okay. Well, now now we're talking about this is Orah Skyclave Hierophant. It's 2 a white and a black for legendary creature Orah Cleric with a lifelink, and whenever Orah Skyclave Hierophant or another cleric you control dies, return target cleric card with lesser converted mana cost from your graveyard to the battlefield. It's a 3/3. So you went cleric tribal on this, right, Alex?
Hard cleric tribal, and again, we got some tribal commanders in our future. I went really hard in a cleric tribal. I think 2 creatures in the deck aren't clerics, and they just are such good cards that really help even out the deck. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, everything's a cleric. That way, everything can work off this, and this also happened to be fantastic.
That's crazy. Yeah, I'm excited about this. Let's get into it. So let's talk about the game plan. What is the plan with this deck that you like to do?
So we mentioned a bit all about the clerics. You're going to outvalue your opponent, get a little, get that card advantage the odd way from bringing it back from the graveyard. You're taking advantage of that instead of having more cards in your hand, which it does have an okay amount of card draw, but definitely taking advantage of the fact everything's a cleric. When the clerics die, you'll get more clerics back and keep that cycle going. And speaking of which, with that, it's a go wide strategy.
Mm-hmm.
Has a lot of cheaper creatures, or aims that way at least. I think the general curve is around between 3 and 4 for most of the cards. So in that range is where the happy zone is, and hopefully you get enough of them, keep them out there, and can win the day. And the other big thing is because they're clerics, it's all about those life gain synergies. A lot of strong life gain, flexibility. And whenever something happens, you gain life. Whenever you gain life, something happens. A lot of those.
Well, because the cleric in the party, he likes to heal people, protect people, give them lifelink, all that fun stuff.
Wizards did a good job. Makes total sense.
It makes perfect sense. And there's some fun lifelink, life gain, life drain, like just synergies with lifelink in this deck that play out really well that I've seen. So
a lot of things have lifelink.
Exactly. So let's get into it. Hold on, let's talk about the first card in the deck. So we're going to talk about just the game plan cards. These cards are just like some of the more synergistic game plan cards. And one of them is a recent card that was printed in the last set. It's Veto, Thorn of the Dusk Rose. It's 2 and a black for legendary creature, Vampiric Cleric. So whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life. And then for 3 and 2 black, you can pay that, and creatures you control gain lifelink until end of turn, and it's a 1/3.
So this is a fantastic card. I definitely see this to be a common target for both removal and to bring back with Orah. This is something that you're going to always want out because it will always put a clock on your opponents. It really is one of the things that makes the deck turn is Veto.
Mm-hmm. And when you gain that life, use Veto to just take that from somebody else. And the next card is very much like it. Veto is really based off of it, which is Sanguine Bond. It's 3 a black and a black for an enchantment that just says whenever you gain life, target opponent loses that much life.
And exactly the same thing. Puts a clock on the opponent. You can maybe use some politics out of this. But unlike Vito's a little barrack, it's a cleric, but it also has the weakness of it being a creature, where being enchantment can make it a little more protected. So a little give and take there.
Yeah, and you got a good handful of like some ways to use this type of aristocrat study. I'm sorry, aristocrat type of strategy. Excuse me, there to really just put pressure on people, right, in this deck. So it makes it very fun.
This deck is a little aristocratish. It's not too aristocratish. It has a little bit to it, just because, with the things dying and the other things come back, Orah wants aristocrats, but I don't know about you, but once I felt like I was going aristocrats when I was building it, I felt like I was starting to step away a little bit from what the deck wanted to do. And there's a few clerics that care about that. But, because I don't make a lot of tokens, I don't really have a way to make that a permanent solution. Yeah. While there's a few effects in there, it's not, it's like a side thing just because a few clerics does it, not because it's necessarily the goal of the deck. Though it does have ways to take advantage of it when a cleric happens to do it.
Exactly. It's not the consistent way you win in this, but it can, but as we know, with
it can come up.
It can come up and it can be a thing for sure. Which is why I love to play black and Orzhov.
It's that black and white combo, man. Everything's a little bit aristocrats. You can't avoid it.
Can't get away from it. I can't get away from it. I got all the way away from it in my TIM deck, though. I was like, nope, not going to do it. But anyway, the next card that's really synergistic in here is Torbrax, and this is from the same set. This is from Zendikar. Torbrax Hope's Demise. It's 2 and a black for legendary creature, Demon Cleric. It's got flying, and Torbrax Hope's Demise has lifelink as long as it has 5 or more 1/1 counters on it. Whenever another non-token creature you control dies, you put a +1/+1 counter on Torbrax. And if that creature was a cleric, you may draw a card. And if you do, you lose a life. It's a 2/2.
Yeah, so chances are it is a cleric. Because everything in this deck's cleric. So this is a nice, consistent card draw spell in the deck. When something dies, you get, it's a little bit of dissuasion, gives you some card draw, you get something out of it, and the life loss is really not important because this deck gains so much life. That's not a big deal in the slightest. And then at the same time, it gets counters while this happens. It gets big. It's a flyer, so it matters. Anything that's big enough, it gets lifelink. So it's a win across the board.
Yeah, it looks like it was built for Orah. Like, obviously it's in the same set and it's a cleric, and it does a lot. It does a lot. I like that card. And for 3 mana too, man.
I will say, if Orah dies, you can bring your Tabaraks back, and that's it.
Yeah. Exactly. So the next card in here that's also very synergistic is Ailey, Eternal Pilgrim. For a white and a black, it's a legendary creature, core cleric with Death Touch. You can pay 1 and sacrifice another creature. You gain life equal to the sacrificed creature's toughness. Or you can pay 1 white and a black and then sacrifice another creature. Exile target non-land permanent. Activate this ability only if you have at least 10 life more than your starting life total. And it's a 2/3.
Yeah, Ailey was the go-to old cleric tribal commander that you had. It was the only one that really had the synergies for it, so that's one in there. But even then, didn't really care about clerics as much as it lined up with a lot of clerics want to do. But there's another example of your, a little bit of aristocrat sneaking in. It just always does with the white-black. But, especially the life gain effects are very relevant to the deck. The Death Touch really matters. And then if you can keep that life gain advantage, which hopefully you will in the deck many a times, Ailey really takes advantage of it and so starts to, becomes a single target removal spell. That's ideal.
Super awesome, especially you can keep that life total up. Yeah, powerful card. So let's talk about the next part of the deck, which is ramp. So some of our best synergistic ramp cards, and obviously this one is just such on flavor. It's Edgewalker. It's 1 white and a black for a creature cleric. It says cleric spells you play cost a white and a black less to play. This effect reduces only the amount of colored mana you pay, and it's a 2/2.
Yeah, and again, just one of those examples. Cost reduction specifically for clerics only would work in a cleric deck, and it's really low mana cost, which also plays to the cleric thing. It's just I want to combine both a slam dunk and a home run at the same time. I really wanted to really mess up my sports analogy. I really did. My brain knew it was wrong, but in my heart, I wanted to do it.
Or a home dunk. Slam run, it's a home dunk and a slam run. That would make a great T-shirt. A home dunk and a slam run. There we go.
You know, as a kid growing up, my mom got me a T-shirt that said "sports" on it, and it just said "sports." I couldn't believe it was so generic.
Oh.
Anyways, this is a random tangent.
You didn't get made fun of at school for that, did you? Come on. I got
No,
sports.
I didn't. I was the only one who appreciated the irony of the whole thing. It just said "sports." It had a bunch of random, soccer ball and a baseball, and you know what I mean. It was just like, what is this shirt?
Yeah. It's definitely. That's.
Anyway, it's a really random tangent there. I'm sorry.
Nothing to do with
We can
clerics.
cut this out later.
Nothing. No, I'm not going to. It's staying in. So the next card that's really synergistic with a ramp is Weathered Wayfarer. It's 1 white for a creature, human nomad cleric, and for 1 white and tap it. You search your library for a land card, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Then shuffle your library. Play this ability only if an opponent controls more lands than you, and it's a 1/1. So kind of that land tax type of thing, but on Weathered Wayfarer on a cleric.
On a cleric, and it's a 1-drop cleric too.
Yeah.
So it's, again, you can really get real low with Orah and still get really valuable clerics out of it. That's one, I think, the main advantage with clerics, especially when looking at this card and really trying to build a deck with it in mind, is there's a lot of high value single drop clerics that really add to the deck.
So our next category is our best synergistic card draw spells. In black and white, you get some good card draw going on. And I really like the fact that we got some clerics that give us some card draw. It's really awesome. So we have Alms Collector. For 3 and a white, it's a creature cat cleric. That's an interesting combination. It's got flash, so if an opponent would draw 2 or more cards, instead you and that player each draw a card, and it's a 3/4.
So you're taking some of your opponent's draws. They'll hate it. You'll love it. Win-win. And again, it's that nice cleric. Something we can really, really get and use, take advantage of. I'm just happy that white honestly has gotten more card draw. It's going to start looking like a thing of the past, all this complaints about white, so I'm really happy with it.
Yeah, speaking of white getting more card draw, we have another new card, Mangar the Diplomat, for 3 and a white. It's a legendary creature, human cleric with lifelink, which is on flavor, cleric with lifelink. And whenever an opponent attacks with creatures, if 2 or more of those creatures are attacking you and or planeswalkers you control, you draw a card. So kind of holding people back a little bit. But then also whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, which happens a lot in Commander, you draw a card, and it's a 2/4.
So this I love too, and most of the time, and this is generally what's going to happen with Mangara, is you're going to get the second cost getting the card draw. I think people are going to either try to avoid attacking you, or when they do, they're attacking you with a lot of stuff in one major swing. But this deck can really handle that because of all the life gain. So that way, when you're getting all these major swings in there, they're not hurting you as much as if you didn't have life gain. You're able to just get it right back. So all of a sudden, they're going to have to do a lot more swings just to take you out, and you'll get that card draw, that value out of it.
All right. Well, I just noticed I didn't have this on the list here, but this is also another good card draw spell. It's Twilight Prophet. For 2 black and a black, it's a creature vampire cleric, I should say that correctly, with flying, and it has Ascend. So if you control 10 or more permanents, you get the City's Blessing for the rest of the game. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have the City's Blessing, you reveal the top card of your library and put it into your hand. Each opponent loses X life, and you gain X life, where X is that card's converted mana cost, and it's a 2/4.
Yeah, so it's pretty much a Phyrexian Arena on top of a cleric that you do have to reveal, but then they get drained for whatever it happens to be. So
nice.
A lot of what the deck wants. I kept this in the deck. I think this is one of the most, if not the most expensive card that stayed in the deck. When I originally built this, was actually a lot more expensive, and I actually toned it down quite a bit to make it a little more affordable, but still not lose its edge. So we'll bring that up when we talk about our easy upgrades that we like to do. But in terms of this one, I decided, it really fits the deck's theme so well. It's really flavorful. It's not, it's not like it sees no play, but it definitely is more centered in this deck than most other decks, being a cleric. So it's really a fantastic card to have.
It's great. It really just does a lot of work. I even playing that card on Arena and some of my black decks, Twilight Prophet just always does work if it gets going, if somebody lets it go. It fits perfect. It's a vampire cleric. So the next category, we're going to talk about our best synergistic single target removal spells. And for this one, we just got one we're talking about, which is Heliod's Intervention. For X, a white, it's an instant. It says choose one. Destroy X target artifacts and or enchantments. or target player gains twice X life.
So almost always, and if everyone remembers, this card was on our top 5 for God, now I can't remember the set name. Isn't that great? For not the newer Theros.
Theros Beyond
Yes.
Death.
Theros Beyond. Thank you so much, Joel. I hate it when it's on the tip of your brain, tip of your tongue. I don't know why I couldn't come up with the word all the time. But anyways, this was in my top 5 for it. I knew for a fact, and I said, hey, the destroy X target artifacts or enchantments is mainly what this is going to get used for. Yes. But some decks will care about the twice X life, and this deck does care about it. Again, you'll generally use the other one, but it's nice to have that in the back pocket to either a surprise win. You can use this in strategy of some of the other cards that we have as an alt win condition to quickly win out of nowhere if you want to just end the game, or you can use it as a way to, if it looks like you go down way low and you just shoot right back up again, no problem. So this is one of those decks where you look at both things as equally important in the deck.
What's really fun about with life gain is like a lot of times cards like this kind of fly under the radar because people are like, oh, well, it's not that big a deal. But when you have a deck that synergizes so well with life gain, and then you inadvertently have these cards, it's like you're keeping your life total at a very healthy rate throughout the game, which causes problems for other people. So to try and knock you off. So Heliod's Intervention, single target removal, and in case you need the life gain. The next category is best synergistic board wipes. And this one, we just put one in here. It is Kaya's Wrath. It's 2 white and 2 black. So 4 total for a sorcery that says destroy all creatures. You gain life equal to the number of creatures you control that were destroyed this way.
And it's just a nice board wipe that gains life for what gets destroyed, It's a synergistic because you get that life gain. We thought too maybe about putting Fumigate in. We didn't end up doing that. But that one was a close, we decided we only really need one good synergistic board wipe, and Kaya's Wrath is one cheaper. So that's
I think it might be
with.
2
But
cheaper.
boy,
I think Fumigate's 6.
I know Fumigate's 3 and a white. I'm almost 100% certain. I've used it a lot in place of a Wrath of God when there were less board wipes to choose from that were reasonably expensive price-wise.
Okay. I am going to fact check you live.
Fact check me live.
You
Let's
are
do
correct.
It.
It is 3 white and a white. You are.
Oh, thank God. You know how embarrassing that would have been, Joel, if I was wrong after I was like, no, I'm pretty sure.
I don't know. I was just watching. All these political things. I'm like, I want to do a live fact check. I thought.
Do it. Cool. Let's do it.
I did it. Okay.
Don't do that too often, Joel, because I'll be wrong.
That's okay. It's no big deal. And somebody out there's like, it is a big deal. You should know everything. Next.
Don't want to give wrong information. Doing my best.
Not at all. But
sorry, Joel.
Our
Keep
next
going.
category, we're going to talk about our best synergistic recursion and protection spells. And there's a lot of good ones, especially in white. And there's a bunch of good clerics that protect you because that's what clerics do. So here we got both Mother of Runes and Giver of Runes, which do very much the same thing. So Mother of Runes is 1 white for a creature human cleric. You tap it, target creature you control gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn. It's a 1/1. And Giver of Runes is a creature core cleric. You tap it, and another target creature you control gains protection from colorless or from the color of your choice until end of turn. And it's a 1/2. So almost the same thing, but they both really, and they're 1-drops, right?
Yeah, and just a hair different, but this is another example. Clerics have great 1-drops that really, really do matter. And this is one of the main advantages why it really works well with Orah is you can kind of almost like an opposite of a ladder, going down the rungs and be like, oh, I'm going to get the next cheapest thing, I'm going to get the next cheapest thing to bring back over and over again. And when your Mother Runes or Giver of Runes is at the bottom of that, you're still pretty happy with that. It still feels like you hit a slam dunk off of, losing your 2-drop and getting a really powerful 1-drop. So it's one of those things. They're going to want to exile a lot of things you have, and guess what? They can't exile everything.
No, you can, and you can't always exile your command. You can protect it. Sometimes you want something to die in this deck, but other times when you don't, you got your runes, your Mother and your Giver.
You nailed it.
Exactly. You got one more you got a bunch more. There's a bunch more. There's a good protection recursion.
There's a bunch more.
But this one is really good. It's Etchings of the Chosen. It's 1 white and a black for an enchantment that is Etchings of the Chosen. Enters the battlefield, you choose a creature type, and of course you're going to choose dinosaurs. And creatures you control Creatures you control the chosen type get +1/+1. And then for 1, you can sacrifice a creature of the chosen type. And target creature you control gains indestructible until end of turn.
You know, I loved Etching the Chosens when it came out in Modern Horizons. I was kind of sad that I could not find a deck for it to really nicely fit into, and I was kind of sad too because the tribal one was white and black in that set. That's why this card enchantment exists in those colors, but it didn't translate as well, at least to any of the decks I had for tribal. So I've been looking for a deck to stick it in. Lo and behold, I found a beautiful choice in Clerics where, you know, again, not too aristocratic, but right there, boom, it has an advantage to being aristocrats. It's going to sneak in no matter what, but it really works well, and I really wanted to include this card somewhere, so I'm happy I found a spot for it.
Clerics or vampires, yeah, there's a few tribes that would go in, but yeah, it fits perfect in here. Okay, let's get into our next category, which is a fun one, our win cons. So here is one of the creatures that is not a cleric, but it is a great win con, and you could not include it, I don't think, and that is Felidar Sovereign. For 4 white and white, it's a creature cat beast that's got vigilance and lifelink, and it says at the beginning of your upkeep, if you have 40 or more life, you win the game, and it's a 4/6.
Perfect example of a very great win con and some cool little combos you can do with it. You can get out Felidar, they think they're fine, right? Mm-hmm. And then you go around, and then at your opponent's end step right before your turn, you go Heliod's Intervention.
Exactly what I was thinking.
Gain twice X life, instant speed. You're at more than 40. They're like, oh my god, do we have an instant way to take this out? Nope, you're going to win the game. Sneak a win in there.
Yep.
They
try and single target remove it. You protect it with Mother of Runes and then Giver of Runes. Yep.
It's really, that's what I'm telling you. This will come up multiple times. I do think this deck, more than any other deck we've done, the alt win cons will see a lot of alt win con wins with this deck.
Especially this next one, because this is a win con for a lot of decks. It's Aetherflux Reservoir. For 4 generic mana. It's an artifact that whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell you've cast this turn. So it's very synergistic here. And you pay 50 life, and Aetherflux Reservoir deals 50 damage to target creature or player.
And again, another example, another way you can use that life gain to win the game. Just because this deck it is meant to go wide, it meant to go attacking, but it won't go wide as well as a token deck that's really dedicated to it. These alt win cons allow you to win those games, and often out of nowhere. This is a perfect example of something when it hits the board. Yep. As soon as it hits the board, you have the opportunity to pay that 50 life and then take someone out. If they don't counter it, they don't have a response kind of thing. So it's one of those things. It's scary while it's out there because you gain life just by it being out. But honestly, it's a surprise way to kill a player. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and we don't do there's a bunch of combos with Aetherflux. We don't really do a lot of combos in our decks. But this synergistically, I mean, you can realistically get to 60 life in this type of a deck.
You're playing Aetherflux surprisingly fair in this deck. I mean, you gain a lot of life, but you're playing it straight. You're not cheating a lot of things to make it work.
Exactly. Another win con, it's kind of similar in a way, but it's a brand new card, Angel of Destiny. It's 3 white and a white for a creature Angel Cleric. That's on point. It's a flying double strike, 2/6. And whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player, you and that player each gain that much life. And then at the beginning of your end step, if you have at least 15 life more than your starting total, each player Angel of Destiny attack this turn loses the game.
Another example of those alt win conditions that you're going to probably easily have that much life. The bigger deal is going to be able to swing in with Angel of Destiny. But it's one of those things, be conscious of playing her because it'll make it so your creatures no longer deal damage anymore. But if you have something like Veto out when it happens, or Sanguine Bond or something that they can really take advantage of it, then that's an upside all of itself. You hit them for normal, you heal that much instead. So it pretty much just gives everything lifelink the old-fashioned way. And then on top of that, when you heal, you will also do an additional. So pretty much giving everything double strike with Sanguine Bond out all of a sudden. I mean, it's kind of scary.
Kinda? Yeah, it's pretty scary.
Anytime these it does normal. It just does normal. It's not quite as bad as I was originally thinking. When I'm reading it, it's just going to do the same with bond damage. But even then, the fact that it's an alternate win condition, the Angel Destiny could just take out a player is a little on the scary side.
Yeah, it's definitely anytime you got those cards that just say that player loses a game or you win the game, and you can figure out ways to make it work. It can be very scary. Definitely something you want to remove if it hits the battlefield against you. Another win con is a land. It's Westvale Abbey. It's a land that you can tap to add colors to your mana pool. And then for 5, you can tap it, you can pay 1 life, put a 1/1 white and black human cleric creature token on the battlefield. And then for 5 and tap it, you could sacrifice 5 creatures, transform Westvale Abbey, then untap it. If it transforms, it becomes Ormondal, Profane Prince, a legendary creature demon with flying, lifelink, indestructible, haste, and it's a 9/7.
So this is just another win con. If you're able to get that out, anyone who's had to deal with a player that has an Ormondal that's been unchecked, they pretty much won the game right then and there. And it's the same thing here. It's not hard to get a bunch of, there are clerics coming out, so that does matter for the things that care about clerics. And same thing, it's easy to sacrifice creatures because you'll just get them back with Orah. There you go. It's sneaking in again, the aristocrats.
Yeah.
But this is a way that you probably want to aim for just because it will, chances are, win you the game. They have to be holding an exile effect to really deal with this.
And it's an easy include. The fact that it's on flavor-making clerics and the fact that, you sack things, you get those sack effects, and you get a big old flying lifelink indestructible haster. Yeah, definitely on point. So those are some ways to win. Of course, with this whole life gain, life drain thing, too, the aristocrat way is also kind of a side thing. But can also work for you. But we have, let's talk, we go to the next section. We like to talk maybe about a few weaknesses maybe this deck has. So talk to us about some of those.
Yeah. You said talk about ways to win. I thought, now we're going to talk about ways to lose.
Ways you can lose. We should change that. Ways to win, ways to lose.
It's not incorrect. Ways to win, ways to lose. So the weaknesses are you can't gain life effects. So something that comes into play, such as Erebos, or something that literally just statically says players can't get life. Big surprise,
Yes.
that will really mess up this deck. That has to be removed ASAP. Otherwise, your deck is going to just slowly die, and there's
ASAP.
nothing you can really do
Yes.
to deal with it, because you're meant to deal with it by healing. Another example is a locked or exiled graveyard. It completely will turn off your commander, which the deck has an eye towards and is really meant to go around. It won't completely take you out of it. It happens once or twice, but if they especially lock out your graveyard permanently, you're probably not going to win that game. So it's one of those things. We talk about including that in our decks. This is an example of a deck that if someone does include it, you're going to have trouble with it. And then the last big one is same thing we said, life gain is usually how you deal with the problems in this deck.
Yes.
Same thing, infect or commander damage will make it so you lose anyways, regardless of how much life you gained. So keeping an eye on that, make sure you're safe from that, that is key.
Protecting yourself from infect is always a thing, isn't it?
Yeah, always.
Keeping yourself. So, it's Orzhov. I mean, it's got a lot of good ways to do a lot of sneaky damage to people. I love these life gain, life drain type strategies. But yeah, you got to watch out for those few things. And you run I think you put a Bazooka Bog in here. I think always when you got black,
I do.
Yeah, you want to exile other people's graveyard, but you don't want them to exile yours because you use it a lot in this deck.
To a T, yeah. Have Bajuka Bog there. I think I even have a cleric that it will exile someone's graveyard just to give you that extra effect. I'm seeing the benefit the more I play more and more, and this is a perfect example of a deck that really, gets destroyed by someone having that effect.
Exactly. So some easy upgrades. So most of our decks, this is not an under 100 episode. This is just a typical deck. Sit around the 250 mark or so. This is a little bit more, I think, but if you did want to spend a bunch more, what are some easy upgrades that kind of would also just make this a little more powerful?
I mentioned on it very, very gently at the very beginning, but when I first built this deck, it was horrendously expensive, and I had to cut a lot of great cards that really helped out the deck.
Yes.
I'm just going to name a bunch of them. Phyrexian Tower I had to take out. Exquisite Blood is probably the biggest one to add in. I mean, it's $30 and costs an infinite, so it's like it's not the end of the world if I lose it. But if you want this deck to be more powerful, boy, does an Exquisite Blood just pretty much win you the game when you play it.
It will combo. It's a win con, yeah.
It will combo infinitely, and you'll just win in the moment just completely. Same thing with Agadeem's Awakening, which just got printed.
Yes.
It's a fantastic card. It can replace a land. It just is nothing but good for the deck. I just did not have the room for the extra $13 that it costs right now.
Yeah.
Other notable clerics that were too expensive were Yawgmoth and Timna. They just happened to be too much, and I just decided they weren't adding enough value for their price. The Cabal Coffers and Urborg combo.
Yes.
Exsanguinate. Yes. That is another one of those win cons. They'll just win you the game in the moment, but it happens to be a little more on the expensive side. And plus, it's not the funnest, so I didn't feel too bad about not including it. But it's another way to, like,
it is so much fun
to win the game.
It is fun. It's so much fun to be
then,
you all lose a bunch of life, and I'm going to gain it.
There you go. And it's not too bad. It's like $5. It was just one of those things. I was like, yeah, I could add it to the deck. It just, I don't know. Everyone hates it so much. Yeah. So I didn't. But add that in if you want it. It would honestly definitely benefit the deck. And the last thing is we had to pull out land tax when we did this. It just wasn't worth the price tag of the card. But again, white and black struggle with mana. A land tax will help that.
Yeah, you were like, I think it's a $20, $30 card, but it was like an $80 or $90 card. It's nuts. They should reprint that.
I looked around it when Battle Bond came out, and it just was reprinted. I'm like, oh, it's too much still. It's 25, and now it's way more. I say that a lot on this podcast. I apologize, everybody.
No worries. So there you go. There is Orah, your clerics, Skyclave Hierophant. So Cleric Tribal, man, if you really want to build this, you like the whole life gain, life drain thing, a lot of synergy. Always fun to play Tribal because it's like every time you're dropping a cleric, something's happening typically. And I think you got like almost 30 clerics in here, something like that. And it's a pretty good number.
It's so crazy. When you Tribal, I always end up with more creatures than I expect.
Yeah. I think hitting between 20, especially in Tribal, 25 to 30 is really a good number. It's about a third of your deck. That means you're going to be hitting a bunch of these synergies a lot. And it's just a lot of fun. I mean, Orzhov. How can you beat that? That's the best color combination, 2-color combination ever made. So anyways, thank you guys for listening. Hope you enjoyed it. If you're going to go build this deck, be sure to use our affiliate link to TCG Player down below. It's in the description. It would really help us out. We do appreciate that very much. Yeah. What else you got, Alex?
Yeah. I was going to say, you expect us to do some more deck techs in the future. I got a couple in my head that I'm wanting to build, and
yes,
we'll build it. And there's going to be a lot more Tribal in our future, too, with this new set. So look forward to seeing that. Keep an eye out. Subscribe if you haven't. We appreciate it.
For sure. Leave some comments below if you have any questions or suggestions for this deck or for other things. I just built my first Tribal deck. I bought the Anawan.
Yeah.
Anawan the Ruin Thief. Sorry, I was taking a look at what the full name.
I was like, yeah, Anawan.
That one, yeah, that one. And I built it, and I have a little strategy. I'm a new player, but I kind of like have a little way I brew my decks that I think I want to share on one of these next deck techs with that. So be looking forward to that. It is a fun deck to play, and I'm starting to get into this whole Tribal mess of things. Yeah,
it's fun times, exciting stuff.
It's awesome. Well, thank you guys again, and we'll be talking to you next week. So have a great day.
See ya.